We're snapping, we're tackling, we're potting here on Snap Tackle Pod. I'm Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41. He's Dion Clisso, PrepsKC.com. Got your Virginia hat on.
Yes, I do.
Originally from Virginia.
Originally from here. We spent time in Virginia. That's what we go through that with high school in Virginia.
Originally from here, spent time there.
Yeah, Dad was in the military. So spent time in Virginia and had friends who went to the University of Virginia. In fact, was doing podcasts with Jesse Owen and was telling him it was like my first real kind of on campus out of high school experience, spending a weekend was at, because I went to community college for the first couple of years, was at the University of Virginia. Some football games that were just a lot of fun. Good times were had. So some laws may have been broken. Nothing major, but you're based in college. You're based in college.
And obviously a tragic time there. This past week there and getting past that in a football program. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it.
They canceled the Virginia Tech game. That says something.
There's
everything about the impact of that. And it's Juan Thornhill had the shoes, and he's a
what
Virginia guy.
Yeah. Our neighbor's son is one of at the school newspaper is like the main sports writer there, and is we checked in when it happened. He was safe when nobody quite knew what was going on, and but he's had to write about this and real world stuff for like a 20-year-old, and so just the connections there. It's the reality of it all is just it's surreal.
And Juan's a Virginia guy. I mean, he grew up in Virginia. I think, and I heard him on like A10 one day, and he was talking about where he's from, and he's, I think, from a smaller town outside of, I think, like Alexandria. Trying to decide way he described it, what I described here, maybe a Kearney type town, like a class 4 school or something like that. Not a big class school, but definitely a Virginia guy through and through. And I know that that was that's been tough on him, and it's a horrible thing. And but hopefully that football program can heal and go from there. But
exactly. What is normally just a great time for football, the Thanksgiving weekend here, so much going on at the college level and then the high school level. Kind of shame that a lot of those people out there can't enjoy it. But we are here in Kansas City to talk about state championship games this weekend, as well as some semifinal games on the Missouri side. We'll kind of back up first, as we always do, and take a look at how we got here. I tell you what, Dion, we talk about, the semifinal week and how it's the best week each and every year, and there's the best games. We had a lot of lopsided affairs last week.
Last Friday night was not good football. I mean, even at least I'm in North down at DeSmet, they handled them. And then everything here in town was pretty much a blowout. I thought that Gardner, the Northwest game was going to be good, but it wasn't. It really wasn't, a good contest. So, no, kind of interesting to see how that shook out. We had some better games on Saturday. The Maryville, the game was pretty good. The Maryville Pleasant Hill, East Buchanan was in a dogfight with Gallatin. Adrian's game was close and then kind of got blown open in the fourth quarter. So there were some better games there. In a loss, Lafayette County and Bowling Green was a good game. I listened to most of that game, and it was back and forth all day. So some better games on Saturday than we had on Friday night. Yeah,
and we had another game on Saturday at Smithville Center, close one. And then Friday night, let's start there. Maybe the best game, the semifinal game, 4A in Kansas, St. Thomas Aquinas and Bishop Miege. Miege able to hold off Aquinas, not make mistakes at the end.
Yeah.
And beat the Saints for the Stags to move on to the 4A state title game.
Yeah, no, I watched that game, and Aquinas came down with Sean Carroll and drove right down the field and jumped out ahead, but then Miege answered back and kind of kept about a 2-score, 10-point stagger, and that's about what it ended up being at the end, 38-28, and really did a good job of slowing that running game down of Aquinas. And like you said, the last time they played them, Aquinas got the same amount of points, but they didn't turn the ball over like they did the last time they played them, and that kept them from getting some more points on the board. So they weren't their own worst enemy there. Played an outstanding game. Mac Armstrong had another great game. Coppage and the rest of that receiving core made good plays. And Coach Wams was out there, and he said that the one thing he was impressed by the Miege receivers is they don't miss balls. They don't drop balls. There was not a lot of balls hitting the ground. Mac Armstrong is incredibly accurate, so that helps. The ball's here. 9 times out of 10. But even there was a diving play for a touchdown. Kid made a great play on. So that's, they make good plays, and when the ball comes close, they make it happen.
Yeah, they do. And so Bishop Miege back in the state title game, I think for the first time since what would have been 2019.
Yep.
You had the Thunder winning it the last 2 years of St. James in 4A. Up in Class 5A, it's like, I guess for the second straight week, you had just kind of, eye-opening scores, right? Both involving Blue Valley Southwest. Blue Valley Southwest hammers DeSoto in the quarterfinals, 69-35, and then Mill Valley returns the favor and then some to Blue Valley Southwest, 63.
63-0, not 69-0 that I put in the tweet. That 69 had stuck in my head from Blue Valley Southwest.
They were a touchdown and missed PAT away from getting to 69-0.
Yeah, no. So they put it on them. I think Mays will score on
most likely
on Mill Valley, but that's not out of the question that they don't. So it'll be interesting. We had our Simone ballot meeting, and that, depending on when you watch this, the Simone ballot will already be out. And there was a discussion of a player from Shawnee Mission South, and one thing that put him over the top of the ballot was that he scored a touchdown against Mill Valley.
Right.
Which,
yeah.
I don't know how many guys are walking around town saying they did that against the ones at Mill Valley. I mean,
I can tell you a touchdown.
Yeah.
That scored 5
guys.
Well, I think Gardner had the same guy twice. I think Dawson Kindler scored twice. And then
also on the ballot.
Yeah, and then Jordan Allen from Olathe South scored
also on the ballot.
He might have done it twice too. It might have been he might have scored both their touchdowns.
So
and then there's Shawnee Mission, Dunbar, Shawnee Mission South.
So kind of an exclusive club. Maybe 3 guys.
Oh, and then yes, I believe it was it Porter maybe from Olathe North.
Olathe North that scored their offense.
Scored on the offense, and then the Olathe North defense had 2 guys that scored.
Yeah. So it's a pretty exclusive club to be able to put
205-0 Mill Valley in the playoffs so far.
It's kind of boring.
That'd be nice to keep that 0 on the see. Taking on a generational quarterback from Mays. We'll talk about that later on. Want to finish up the results in 6A. Kind of like 5A, you figured Mill Valley would win. Gardner Edgerton probably the favorite in this one. You just maybe didn't see him just hammering Olathe Northwest like that.
No, not at all. I mean, I thought they would win. Olathe Northwest has been playing so well coming in offensively. Their defense, I knew was they gave up some points. And so I knew they'd be challenged a little bit there to stop, especially once Gardner Edgerton gets going with that flex bone. They're so tough to defend. And any team that runs a flex bone, they're tough when they get up because you just don't get your hands on the ball. But they hung 55 on Olathe Northwest, and held them to 7.
You would have thought they were a spread team, right?
yeah. That's a lot of points to put up in a semifinal game. I can remember when Dustin Delaney, who's the offensive coordinator at Gardner, was the head coach of Shawnee Mission East. They hung 55-60 on teams in the first round, but not necessarily in the semis. That's not easy to do. So the Gardner team's playing real well, and they are at this point they're there. So they've got as good a chance as anybody. There's no derby on the other side.
Look, Gardner almost beat Manhattan last year, and the Gardner team's way better this year. And I get it, Manhattan is too. But I believe, was Manhattan a 1 seed? They were close to it last year on the west side because Gardner was on the west side.
They were close. But you're right. Yeah, Gardner almost beat them in the playoffs.
I'm going to look that up as we move over to the
I'm a dad,
Missouri side. I tell you, CBC, I haven't seen him play, but they must be tremendous offensively.
Watch that game. They really, in the second half against Liberty North, decided, well, we've got 2, 3 elite guys. We're just going to hand them the ball. Love kid is outstanding, and Liberty North, and Melvin Laster had some telling quotes. He said, we didn't do a very good job on the backside and got out of their gaps and started chasing. Yeah. You start chasing fast guys, you end up on the other side of it. So they were Liberty North was up 14-12 at halftime, playing really well, and then just got blitzed in the second half. So and it wasn't like last year where they turned the ball over 5 times. They just got blitzed. They couldn't really stop them in just big plays, 70, 80-yard runs and things like that. So no, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the state championship game this week.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that momentarily. Class 5, Fort Osage, kind of a dominant win over Grain Valley to move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, Lorenzo Fenner had a big game, 100 yards receiving, and really, the one thing they always say is don't kick it to Lorenzo Fenner. I don't think Grain Valley intended that. I think that was a wind-aided ball that did not get to the end zone, and Fenner did what Fenner does. He took it all the way back for a touchdown. He is dangerous in the fact that you can't let him touch it as a general rule. And they did a good job of getting the ball. Grain Valley took away Reaver Peppers and the tailback who had 20 touchdowns on the year, but they couldn't take away Fenner. And Fenner had a big game, and Greg Meany, the quarterback, had a good game. So they get to go to Cape Girardeau Central. As I'm trying to arrange coverage as we speak of that game, which I'm coming up short as of right now, I called down and left a message, a voicemail on the editor of the Southeast Missourian. I wasn't sure if I was calling Cape Girardeau or someplace in Mississippi with his accent.
Yeah, Kentucky. I mean, there's
it's a whole different world in Cape. I mean, it's definitely, I know when Odessa played in Kennett a few years ago, that it was actually, I was trying to find somebody to cover that game.
I remember that.
We ended up doing it over the phone as Mark Thomas and that team came back from that semifinal. That it was, instead of trying to get people from St. Louis to go cover that game, it was easier to get people from Memphis to go cover the Kennett game. And in fact, two of the guys who write for me, Andy Myers and Steve Bubalo, while I was trying to figure out how I was going to do coverage this week, I was texting them like, "Are you available this week?" They're both in Nashville, which I think Nashville to Cape Girardeau is definitely closer than Blue Springs or North Kansas City to Cape Girardeau.
Yeah.
So I was trying to talk one of them into scooting on over to Cape on Saturday afternoon to get that done. But no, they're both staying in Nashville for the weekend. I don't think their wives are going to let them on a Thanksgiving weekend take off and go cover a game 3 hours away.
Yeah. A couple things here. Anytime you get close to the Kentucky Bend, which is that little piece of Kentucky that's inside Missouri,
yes,
right? It's going to be a different world. But yeah, I've always wanted to go to Kentucky Bend, by the way, and just kind of see what it's like. And then also, Manhattan was a 2 seed last year. Yeah. Gardner was a 10, and Gardner lost by 3 points. And so, look, I've been skeptical about Manhattan all year long, but they've kind of proven me wrong to where I believe this is a legit team. I mean, you beat Derby twice. I don't care if the quarterback's hurt or not. That's
beat Wichita Northwest twice. I mean,
what's that? Exactly. Both times there, I'm like, all right, I think Northwest is going to be nope. Didn't happen. So they have a quality team. I think Gardner has every chance in the world.
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about that here moving forward. We're down to Class 4. Did that Smithville Center result surprise you?
A little bit, yeah. Smithville did a great job of shutting down the running game, and Joseph Vick didn't have it. I mean, he was scrambling a lot of the times, and it wasn't as accurate as he's been, and really kind of took center out what they wanted to do, and probably could have scored a few more points than you'd think. They were in position to do that a couple times, and they didn't punch it in. But that's a hats off to center's defense. Center blocked a punt too, and had center blocked a punt and had a ball inside the 20, and then with penalties and sacks was like 4th and 30, on the other side of the 50, and so it just didn't go center's way. But because they didn't go center's way because Smithville was on the other side of the ball. And come to find out, the team that lost in the semifinals probably should have won in the semifinals 2 years ago, and maybe should have won a state championship 2 years ago, blitzed its way to a state championship last year. And even though it replaced a lot of players off that team, they might be good. They might be. In fact, there's whispers like, oh, they're done after this year. I wouldn't say that about Smithville. They replaced so many players on that team. If you don't think they don't have kids lined up and ready to go for next year, you're stupid.
I mean, early on in the year, they didn't look anything like a state championship team. The offense, which is, always kind of behind the defense, wasn't even close. Defense wasn't as physical as they are now, but they've come around. That I tell you, High school football defense travels in the playoffs, and
they're not very big, but they're physical.
Again, last week.
Yeah, they imposed their will on you. And offensively, they replaced 8 starters, so that's why that took. And they've really been a run-heavy team, led by Andrew Hedgeworth. But he's a guy now that they're in the postseason. If they're forced to chuck it 35 times, they've got a guy who can do it, and they can beat you any way they want. And I think Smithville's extremely dangerous, and it's going to be tough against St. Mary's. St. Mary's is loaded with athletes. It's going to be a tough game.
Well, yes, from one powerhouse program to another. Maryville loses to Pleasant Hill, and I get it's not the same Maryville team we've seen in a lot of such your older brothers Maryville team. But that's a great win for the Pleasant Hill program, right? It was at Maryville.
Yeah, first
win by 15.
Yeah, first semifinal appearance in 75. They won a state title in 74, or no, they were runner-up in 74, and then made the semis in 75, and this is the furthest they've been since. What the difference was, and this is what I think will help them this week against Cardinal Ritter, they only have one guy who goes both ways. Now, he's really an important guy. He's starting middle linebacker and tailback.
That's it. That's amazing. There's 6A teams that have like 5.
Yeah, so they have one guy going both ways, and you saw that in the second half against Maryville.
Yeah, it's huge.
1 point and outscored them 22 to 6 in the second half.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the thing that they're going to rely on. And they play up tempo on offense, so they're making you change those guys out. If you can't get them out and things like that. So they really, and he said, he goes, we were, just excuse me, Justin Hamilton, their coach, said we got a little sped up ourselves in the first half because Maryville wanted to go at tempo too. And he goes, once our guys kind of on defense got their, kind of settled in, he goes, we were fine the rest of the way. And that's what they did in the second half of that game. And
take on Cardinal Ritter. We'll talk about that. But a couple more. We have Adrian moving on and East Buck moving on in the lower classes in Missouri.
East Buck, I think, expected to be there. They're defending state champions. We got a lot of players back on that team. Adrian, maybe not. They're a very young team. A lot of sophomores and juniors who lead the way there, and they beat a Marionville team that were up 8-6, and then they scored a touchdown, and they just couldn't punch it in. And Adrian kept them out of the end zone, and then Adrian scored, did a pooch kickoff that the kid bobbled, and they got it. Their coach lost his mind at that point, and that team melted down from that point on. So, Adrian playing with house money here. They get a Monroe City team that is, been the number 1 or number 2 team, depending on how the rankings have been this year, all year. And they have got a fighting chance because Monroe City is down at least one of their running backs, maybe 2, depends on how it shakes out. But no, Adrian in the semifinals again 3 years ago against Mid-Buchanan.
Then I might be missing some. It's class 1. I'm not always paying the most attention there. If we ever had I can edit here. Have we ever had an all Kansas City?
No, I don't think in
class 1.
I'd have to go look. There's a great Wikipedia page that has, you can go find all the champions. That's easy. But there's a great Wikipedia page out there that has all the champions and runners up. I'd have to go look and see, but not in the recent history.
Well, and it felt like this wasn't possible maybe 10, 15 years ago, right? Where you're always taking.
They were all kind of all the class 1 teams were pretty much all on one side. They before they started splitting it up, it definitely wasn't possible because they would split the state in half, and you were always on the same side or in the same quarter as teams you played. So it'd be hard to do. But now they move it around a little bit, which is good, and that's where you get these kind of matchups. Yeah, we always clamor for it in class 6. Has yet to happen. It is happening, or at least has the chance to happen again in class 1 here. All right, so here we go. We got 9 games, right? 9 games in the area to talk about this week. Some state championship games, some semifinals. Let's get started with the state championship games. In Kansas, 6A, Gardner Edgerton and undefeated Manhattan, the number 1 team in Kansas. What do you think about the Trailblazers here in a state championship game for the second time in school history? I think that the people everybody out there is probably picking Manhattan in this game. I like the fact that neither one of these teams have any history of being in this game, walking in the stadium in Emporia.
you have new blood in some classes, you have deja vu in some classes. This is new blood.
Yes. Neither one of these teams. I mean, Manhattan has been in a state championship game since 2001. And that's a team that played for a bunch back in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s. But no, this is new for both of them. I think that Gardner's style plays.
I mean, it's Syracuse zone in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Unless you've faced it before, and you better have a game plan going into it, because there's a way to stop it, but you got to have experience playing the flex bone. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know out west if there's any Kansas teams that play.
Hutch used to run it. I don't know 2-3 coaches on from Dreiling if they still are. I think Cornelson did when he was there. But like I said, they're a second or third coach past that. I think that the thing that if you're Manhattan, you got to worry about is, okay, maybe we feel like we can stop that run. And then they pop you one over the top, and you look up and there's a tight end running free down.
And Gardner's messing around with a couple different quarterbacks here. You got Connor Elder, and you got the sophomore as well, Braven Powell, whose family we know very well. It's a terrific athlete. And so, I mean, I try to follow the box scores on PrepsKC.com. I see Braven's catching a touchdown pass. I see him throwing one.
Yeah.
And so they're varying that up. First of all, Jesse Owen, coach. And he's got calling plays, Delaney.
Yes.
That's Delaney as well. Ryan Lonergan on that staff. So many good coaches. And then also, I mean, that is a hell of an offensive line. That is a big physical offensive line. They might not have like just the track stars out there that maybe you see with the Lathan North, but they have a huge offensive line, and they got guys that'll put their shoulder pads down and tote the rock, and Dawson Kindler and Bootash. Really like their team.
Yeah, in fact, that you think about those Shawnee Mission East teams that Dustin Delaney had. When he got there, they were coming off a Chip Sherman spread, throw the ball around, because they had a quarterback and some guys who could catch it. He got there and looked around and was like, I got a little lineman walking around Shawnee Mission East.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did. He installed that flex bone, and they went from there. Gardner
they got big dudes there. So that's I think a lot of times you chalk it up to system with the flex bone, but they got fellas at Gardner. When you combine like talent with the flex bone, it's really hard to
it is. Like I said, I like Gardner's. I'm looking forward to watching that game. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
And then
I assume you'll be on
receiver they have out there. Yeah.
You'll be on a phone trying to catch up on some of these, or following on our live stats on PrepsKC. Probably trying to.
I don't know if my phone will be out on Saturday, but I'll look afterward. Because down in 5A, we're all be in Pittsburgh. It's going to be Mill Valley and Mays, the rematch. Dion, I can't remember a game that's been more anticipated in Kansas in a long, long time.
I think everybody thought this was what was going to happen, and it happened. It's definitely what everybody thought was going to be. I think it's even more interesting with the way Mill Valley has played over the last month plus. And Mays has been the same team kind of all season long. They've from the jump, and Mill Valley's been good and been dominant, but they've really cranked it up a notch in the postseason. And
they have, and it depends on who you're playing and all that stuff. But the defense has been dominant, and I think a lot of times, similar to Gardner, you think of Mill Valley as maybe this this nameless, faceless machine, right? But there is some talent on the defensive side. Jaden Woods, we'll get some Simone, finalists and everything. He's going to be, in the next 3 years in the top for like the Buchanan. He's defensive end for Mill Valley. Truman Griffith is a D1 defensive lineman. Mikey Bergeron nominated for the Simone Award on the defensive side. There are some fellas. We talk about Hayden Jay and Tristan Baker a lot on the offensive side, but that defense. It's it's more than just system there. It's some dudes over there, and so it's crazy. It's going to be Mays with 2 D1 receivers and the number 8 quarterback in the country against by far the best defense in Kansas.
Oh yeah, not even close. And the thing that defense in Mill Valley, not that I'm not telling you anything you don't know, that defensive line is so good, it frees up the other 7-8 guys.
Yeah.
To really just flood anything you want to do, whether it's run support or if it's flooding a zone to where a quarterback doesn't have any spots to throw to, oh, by the way, it's not that they just hold up the offensive line or, they get to the quarterback. They make things happen quicker. So, Avery Johnson's, I don't think he's going to be phased and scared or anything like that, but he's going to be sped up like he has been sped up all year.
Yeah. I rewatched the game from last year, and he's a much more accurate passer this year. He's thrown for a lot more yards. He's rushed for a fewer because everybody's realizing more, okay, we got to try to contain this guy. Still, once he gets out of the pocket, he's almost untouchable. Yeah. But I watched the game from last year. It's like this is going to be a lot of the same guys running around on offense for them that are running around on defense, because Mill Valley had a very young defense last year. And so it's this is the deja vu part of the Kansas City teams playing the playoffs, because we saw it last year, and for a classic this year. Spectrum's going to air the game, and it's going to be a good time.
I'm looking forward to it. In fact, I was trying to decide if I was going to go to Pleasant Hill or if I was going to stay home and watch several games at once, and I think that's my plan.
We got room on the bus, Dion. Come on down. Mill Valley doesn't mess around anymore. They get buses for the fans to go down there. So come on down.
I'd love to get out, and I'd love for all state championships to be in Kansas in one place, and I'd love to do that one time. But like we used to do it, like we do it in Missouri. But no, it's and it's not even that. The only problem with the Dome was that it was in St. Louis.
Yeah.
The Dome were here. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, who knows? Chiefs move over to Kansas.
Kansas could have it at Children's Mercy. I think that's a great place.
Well, that grass field, tear up a grass field, having 6 games.
Yes, yeah, but it's good enough for at least one state championship game, right? You got NCAA Division II playing there.
I am going to start a push for the Missouri Class 6 game to be at the current stadium when that gets open. We'll see. See if I have
just get some state championships in Kansas City, for crying out loud. It's not just football. We barely have any in all sports.
We have none, really.
6A girls softball in Kansas is there. Sometimes there's some
soccer has been here.
Soccer. I think there's some Kansas soccer there occasionally, but that's about it. All right, let's get back to it. 4A in Kansas. It's Bishop Miege and Wamego. Look, I've seen a little bit of Wamego. I think they might be the best team from the West in 4A in a long time, but will that matter?
I don't think it will matter. I think Miege is playing really well. The way they played against the run-heavy team last week just shows that they've got to beat themselves at this point. That's what's going to beat them is turnovers and things like that. But they've had those games already. I think they've kind of got that out of their system.
Out of your system. They hate them at the time, but if you can get them out of your system, do that in regular season.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I like Miege a ton in that game.
It's funny. So in 5A or 6A, I think the last time a school from outside of the metropolitan areas of Wichita or Kansas City has won is like 2007. So you have a chance with Manhattan, and then Wamego is basically part of Manhattan. So what a year for football in that kind of area of the state.
Yeah, and like you said, it's been pretty much a Wichita, Kansas City dominated thing, and really Wamego would be the first non-Catholic school since Rose Hill.
Miege was probably in 4A, right?
I think Rose Hill went back-to-back against Eudora. I feel like Lewisburg won it in 10, and I think Eudora went in 11 and 12. Wow. And then Miege moved down and started winning titles. Yeah, Eudora finished second, did back-to-back years. I know one of them was Rose Hill, because then Rose Hill went in the tank. They were like winless there for a few years. It was like 7-0.
Yeah. All right, so Class 6 in Missouri, does Lee Summit North. This is deja vu again, right? By the way, the semifinals and the finals with Liberty North and Lee Summit North and CBC. But they have a chance this year.
Hey, they had a beat last year.
He did.
A lot of the same players. They had a chance to really win that game last year. They've got to finish. And I did a podcast with Jamar Mosey just before we did this one, and that's what he talked about. Is that we talked about finishing. You got to finish when those against that team. You got Liberty North had a good half, and they didn't have a good second half. You got to take care of your business. I think athlete-wise, they match up better than maybe Liberty North did. Look, not that Liberty North doesn't have a ton of athletes. They do. They're loaded. But Lee Summit North has a ton. And I think that, with their offensive line led by Caden Green, they can control the clock a little more. And they've got, the Quincy Baker kid, Tanner House. The tailbacks are great. The two quarterbacks, Max Ford and Elijah Leonard, are both playing well. And then Isaiah Mosey, the outstanding receiver, is playing great. And then on the defense, Williams Narney, I think is how he says his name. Outstanding guy for them on the defensive line. Plays a linebacker as well. No, it's they've got the dudes. So it's not getting down, I think is the big thing. Keep them within distance and take them to the ground is what he talked about.
Yeah.
Don't let them slip past you. You got to take when you get to them, you got to take them to the ground. And I think they've got the speed and the power to do that.
Class 5 in Missouri, you have Francis Howell and Carthage, and you have Fort Osage and Cape Central. Who's the favorite of those four?
Well, the Francis Howell and Carthage game, I think, is going to be a really good one. I like Fort to come out of the Cape game. Fort's just playing like a team that should win a state championship. They've got all the pieces. They're healthy. But Carthage and Francis Howell are good. That's what helps Fort. They don't have to play Francis Howell and Carthage. The other ones will have to play, go through.
So they've got you think the fourth of the four?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And Cape Central hasn't really been here where Francis Howell and Carthage have been. So I think I like Fort's chances this week, and I like Fort's chances next week if they get there.
In Class 4, Smithville, are we sure St. Mary's is Class 4? I see them as like a Class 2 and Class 3.
They've been Class 4 and they dropped down to Class 3.
Get you, huh?
Yeah, they dropped down to Class 3, won state championship, so they bumped back up to Class 4. Under the old multiplier, they were Class 4. No, I think I think Smithville's got a chance here. It's about slowing those athletes down and being physical and winning the line of scrimmage. That's what they have to do. They have to win at the line of scrimmage, or else they're going to be in trouble. So they've got a chance. It's at home.
Is this the state title game, you think?
Probably. I don't,
Yeah, it's West Plains and St. Dominic.
Or St. Dominic. Yeah, I think it's a state championship game.
Yeah.
I think these are the two best teams that are left.
Yeah. I'm going back to my sheet. East Buck. We've got
I like them in that game.
East Buck and Duchesne.
Duchesne's a team a lot like St. Mary's or Cardinal Ritter. Their record doesn't look great, but they played a lot of bigger teams than them all season long. And they've the East Buck doesn't scare them. But that being said, East Buck is not like a normal Class 1 team. They've got 60 kids. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of depth. They can do just they want. They're real physical. So I like East Buck in that game. I think they should get it done. They're defending state champion. They've been there, done that. Where Duchesne's kind of has to travel all the way across from St. Louis to Kansas City, first time being this deep in playoffs. I like their chances.
Sorry, I skipped over Pleasant Hill in Class 3 and what's going to be a huge game. We talked about it. One of the biggest games of Pleasant Hill history against Cardinal Ritter. How good is this Cardinal Ritter team?
Well, I like St. Mary's. We've got a couple D1 kids on that, Power 5 D1 kids on that team. I think what helps Pleasant Hill is their depth, and they're only one guy going both ways. I think that's going to be a difference maker for them, no doubt.
And then I believe the last game is Adrian
in Monroe City. Adrian's got a puncher's chance. We got a lot of home semifinals this year. First time in a while we've had all these games at home, with the exception of Fort Osage. So yeah, I think Adrian's got a puncher's chance there. Love to see an Adrian East Buck game. Talk with Coach Daniel Ritter from East Buck, and he goes, we'd love to see. He goes, that'd be so cool if it could be two teams from kind of the Kansas City area.
They didn't play in the regular season, did they?
No, they didn't. So no, he said it'd be really great to see. And Adrian's a year away, maybe. They may be ahead of schedule here. And really playing as good a football as they played in a long time.
Nice. All right, before we get out of here, let's talk Simone. We're down to final 10 in all the categories.
Down to final 10. Voting's going on as you watch this, and we'll just talk Simone Award on this one real quick here as we get running out of time. But I thought the group did a great job. You were part of it, and there's about 8 of us all together. Guys from PrepsKC, guys from A10 Varsity, guys from WHB, guys from KSHB, who all cover football all year long. And it's I was talking with Coach Mosey, and it's not just running backs and quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
We got a defensive lineman in Edric Hill, got an offensive lineman in Caden Green. You got Zach Darsh from Blue Valley.
For the Simone. The final 10.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're working from, it's not just us nominating guys. We're working from guys who are nominated by the 120 plus coaches in the area.
And then you got Zach Darsh, who's a linebacker who plays quarterback for Blue Valley West.
Yeah. I'm always partial to those guys, man. The Jetanese, the guys that, at big schools, they don't have to, but they're so good. And they're so the stamina is so high, right? That they can go out there and play both ways.
And then you look at a guy like and you go down to something like the Fontana. You got Braden Bush, who's a two-way guy for Pleasant Hill, and then and his name's I'm blanking on it when I got it right here in front of me. The kid from Kearney, who was when I got his name from the Kearney coach and was looking at his numbers, I was like, really, this guy? Because he didn't have great numbers. Zach Grace. But then I talked to Jason Ambrosen and then Tim Spurl from A10 who did that game. And they're like, no, that's the dude you prepare for. Yeah. Like he had 21 touchdowns, but not a lot of yards because he was their guy. He played tight end, he played running back, he played quarterback, he did everything for him. So there's a lot of that out there this year, and it's fun to see.
No, it is. That's on the Simone side. Kind of a wide open race, would you say? I mean, we're talking.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know who's going to win.
I don't know who's going to win. You won't know till
I don't know the Final Four. I'm a good guess at that.
I don't have a. I guarantee you that you and I could both come up with the Final Four. It would probably be different, and there's no guarantee
almost
that we would get
different.
2 of
8 different guys who would throw out there. Maybe.
Yes, no doubt. It's definitely wide open.
Yeah, and so our schedule for revealing the finalists on Sunday night, Dion, Clisso is going to be on Sunday sound off when we will reveal the Final Four finalists for all the categories. And then starting on Monday, we will reveal the winners of the Taylor, the Bell, Buchanan, the Fontana through Thursday. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night, each Simone Award candidate will get their own night, basically with video. We'll feature them with, some interviews, stuff like that. And then Tuesday morning, we'll surprise the winner, old school fashion, at their high school. That's going to be Tuesday, the 6th. 6th. Yes.
I will say this, since we've gone to this format, I love it. I love seeing the reaction of the guys who win those first 4 awards. I've also really enjoyed, especially the way we did it last year, getting to do the one-on-ones with the Simone finalists.
Yeah.
It's really kind of cool to get to know them. And they each get, because in the past they'd be a Simone finalist and then the winner would have their day, and the other 3 guys would just kind of not afterthoughts.
It feels like they were always lost in the shuffle, and you kind of can't avoid it because you're at the winner's school, right? And so I like it this way. The other 3 are going to have their own nights. You're going to learn about them if you're watching KSHB 41. And then same with the, if you're winning the Bell, right? You got your own night. We're going to Zoom with you. We're going to come to your house, talk to you, and get your reaction and all that. And so,
it's
we kind of fell into this format with COVID, and we've stuck with it out of COVID.
Well, and who was the kid from Mill Valley who was talking to a coach while he learned that he won?
Ethan Kramer was talking to a
recruiter. He's like,
his mom and dad were videoing him as he's watching it. He's on the phone. He just throws his arm up in the air that he won it. If you know Ethan, that's him. That's him in a nutshell.
Well, and then last year, I interviewed Jet Deneen from a hotel room in Hutch because they were at a basketball tournament.
Yeah,
he was already into basketball mode, and they just finished playing a couple weeks earlier. And no, it's and that's the fun part about this week. These next 2 weeks is getting to know some of these kids, and seeing how they like last year Jackson House, got to know him and a little bit there at the ceremony, and who won the Fontana before he moved to Louisiana. But no, it's a great week, and it's thanks to the Simone family, thanks to the McCarthy Auto Group, who's the presenting sponsor for what they do for that. It's gonna be fun. It's hectic, but it's fun.
No, it is. It's a crazy 2 weeks. As you mentioned, basketball starting up for most schools. You got the state championship games over 2 weekends here, and stuffed in the middle of it is voting for the Simones. Getting the finals lists out, and then revealing the winners, and then doing the Simone Awards. It's a hectic scramble, but it's one we look forward to every year.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, best luck to all the state championship teams out there, especially those Mill Valley Jaguars. Bring home hardware. I think we had 5 last year, if I remember right, 5 state champions, which is a good year for Kansas City. So bring back some more.
Yep, no doubt.
East Buck, Smithville, Mill Valley, St. James,
Blue Valley
and Northwest.
Yep, good year.
Yep, good year. Chance to do that, or maybe more this year. All right, for Dion and Mick, we'll see you next time. There'll be a next time.
As always,
wrap up.
Who knows? Ahead. Who knows? Maybe this will keep going. We'll see.
We'll talk about that. Dion wants to. Really early in the morning for me. All right. We'll see you next time right here at Snaptackle Pod. Jesus, thunder upstairs. Let me hear that.
Mine too. Well, mine won't stop recording. Oh, there we go.